nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening once again. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's a good thing to see we have some audience tonight. Before we go on, I would like to ask, ¿habrá necesidad de traducción al español para alguien en esta noche? Thank you. We will move on. I will entertain a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda.
I would like to
Microphone. Thank you.
make the approval of the motion, but I need to add an item under section B. Add a number 7, and it would be appointment of student representative.
Okay, we've got a motion by Director Johnson to add under B, make it its own item, B7, appointment of students to student rep positions.
I would also like to add under upcoming events, Desert Oasis is having their family STEAM night on Monday night. Hold on, I have to look at my calendar for the time and the date. The 16th, Monday the 16th at 6:30 is their family STEAM night. Just to add a few more things into that already packed calendar.
Okay. We've also had a request to add under upcoming events, Desert Oasis STEAM night on Monday, December 16th at 6:30.
And then I second all of those changes.
All righty, we've got a motion by Director Johnson, second by Director Stevenson. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Moving on, B1, public comment. We do have a request for public comment, so Angelica Galan, if you'll step up to the hot seat over here. I would remind you that we take public comment very seriously. There is a theoretic 3-minute time limit, so if you would try to adhere to that as much as possible. Floor is yours.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
I don't know that that's on.
Button on the bottom, hold it for it.
The back. And there we go.
Here you go. There you go.
So, good afternoon. My name is Angelica Galan. I work at Desert Oasis High School. I'm a para there. And so, sorry I was kind of late rushing in here, but I did want to ask, one, who decides the date that we test? And I kind of did get some feedback from Pete very quickly, but the date of the SBA testing at our schools, that's the math test, that I believe used to be sometime around May, maybe a couple years back. This year, I believe it's on the 14th and 15th of April. And that's the week right after spring break. So yeah, that's what prompted me for my question, who decides these things, and if maybe moving forward, we can consider not testing our kids with such a big, important test, like right when we come back from spring break. And I don't know if you guys could answer now, or you just take my comment or question and table it. I don't know how it works.
Now, we heard your comment, and the appropriate person will reach out to you and let you know who makes those decisions, why it was decided at this time to go with those dates, and answer any other question you may have. Someone will reach out to you.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to B2, very special evening tonight. We have the oath of officers, and I will let Dr. Hurst take over the program for a bit.
It is my pleasure and honor to be able to stand before you this evening to bring on board 2 new board members and then 1 already seated board member. And what I wanted to share first is a certificate that's coming from our Adams County Auditor. And I wanted to read this to you. It's the same for all of them except for the district number and for, of course, the name. United States of America, State of Washington, Adams County, 2, and then the name is in there. Greetings. This is to certify that at the general election held in said county and state on the 5th day of November AD 2019, you received the highest number of votes cast for the office of Othello School District 147, 163, 55, Director, District, and then it has the appropriate district. In and for the County of Adams, State of Washington, and where therefore duly elected to said office as appears from the official election returns and canvass on file in my office. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and affixed my official seal this 26th day of November 2019, signed by Heidi Hunt, Adams County Auditor. And again, I just wanted you to see the beautiful certificate that each one is going to receive. And what we will do is we will have one at a time come up and be sworn in. So first we're going to ask Miguel Mike Garza to come forward. Sir, we ask that you raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Miguel Garza,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States and the Organic Act and laws of the State of Washington, and that I will faithfully and impartially perform and discharge the duties of the office of Othello School District 147, 163, 55, Director, District 5, at large, according to the law, to the best of my ability. Welcome back, sir. Next, we're going to ask Sharon Schutte to come forward. Good evening, ma'am. If you could raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Sharon Schutte,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Organic Act and laws of the State of Washington, and that I will faithfully and impartially perform and discharge the duties of the office of Othello School District 147, 163, 55, Director, District 2, according to the law, to the best of my ability. Welcome aboard, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And then finally, we're going to ask if Lindsay Prowse to come forward. Good evening, ma'am. Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Lindsay Prowse,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution
the Constitution
and the laws of the United States
and the laws of the United States
and the Organic Act
and the Organic Act
and laws of the State of Washington,
and laws of the State of Washington,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
perform
perform
and discharge
and discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of Othello School District
of Othello School District
147
147
163
163
55
55,
Director District 4
Director District 4,
according to the law
according to the law,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Hoorah. Welcome aboard, man. Thank you very much.
Okay, some technical difficulties, so, okay, here we are. Looks like we're back on. I love it.
Do you want to invite them up?
They,
Do you want to invite
yes.
them?
Yes, please, if you'll join us, you'll see that you have your name in front of you.
Oh, I guess-
Welcome aboard. It's not on the agenda, but I'm going to take the time to thank the citizens of Othello for their trust in me and voting me to once again serve another 4-year term on this board. It's a privilege to represent you all, and you have my word that I will do it to the utmost of my abilities. Keeping in mind that the reason why I chose to run again is the students first and foremost, and making sure that they have everything it needs to become successful upon their graduation from Othello, from the Othello School District. Don't know if Director Prowse and Director Schutte would like to say a word.
You have to turn them on. Yeah, the red light. Right, yeah, you got it.
Well, I just want to thank everyone for giving me this opportunity, and I appreciate all the support that I had throughout the town. And
I too want to thank everyone for their support and for the ability that this community gave me to believe in myself and to believe that anything's possible. And so I, like Mike, give you my word that I will do my best to adequately represent our community and be an advocate for our teachers and for our students. So thank you for your support. I appreciate it.
Very good, thank you. Moving on, item B3. Pursuant to District Operating Policy 1210, at the first regular meeting at which newly elected board members are seated in election years, and at the first regular meeting in December non-election years, the board will elect from among its members a president and a vice president to serve 1-year terms. A newly appointed board member may not be eligible to serve as an officer unless a majority of the board has been appointed. So tonight, we will have elections. We will be electing a president, a vice president. We will also elect President Pro Temp and a WIA representative. So moving forward,
Are we also doing a legislative rep?
we are not, the DOP states that in even years, it's through June. So that
Oh,
will be
okay.
in
Gotcha.
June when we elect a
Okay.
legislative
So
representative.
legislative rep is typically a 2-year term, is that
It is a
correct?
2-year
And
term.
then WIAA, how
It
long
also
is that term?
a 2-year term as well,
Okay.
yes.
And the pro tem is 1
1
also?
year, yes.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Having said that, I will entertain motions for nominations of the president.
I'd like to make a nomination, please.
Go ahead.
Ken Johnson for the president.
Okay. We have a nomination or a motion for the nomination of Ken Johnson for president.
I would like to nominate Mike as the president,
I need to,
Mike Garza.
I need to first ask if there's a second for.
I'm
the-
sorry,
the
I jumped
nomination
in so many
of Ken
times.
Johnson.
Can you second yourself? Oh, okay. I guess I shouldn't second since I've nominated someone else.
Having said that, motion does not carry for lack of a second.
Okay, officially, I guess I will now nominate Mike as president.
Okay, we have a nomination of Mike Garza as president.
I second.
We have a second. Any other nominations at this time? Any further discussion? All those in favor of Mike Garza being the president for a one-year term? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. I will now entertain a motion for the election of vice president.
I nominate Ken Johnson.
We have a nomination of Ken Johnson for vice president.
I second.
Okay, we have a second. Any other nominations? Okay. We have a nomination by Director Schutte of Ken Johnson being the vice president, seconded by Director Prowse. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. As I mentioned earlier, in the agenda, it has the election of a legislative representative. Upon some research, I have determined that that is not due till June of 2020, so we will elect a legislative representative at our last meeting in June per the policy. At this time, I will entertain a motion for the election of President Pro Temp, who will serve when the president and vice president are not able to perform their duties. It is also a one-year term.
I nominate Jen Stevenson.
Okay, we have Director Prowse with the nomination of Jen Stevenson.
I'll second that.
Okay, seconded by Director Johnson. Any further discussion? All in favor of Jen Stevenson being President Pro Temp? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Now, the WIA representative, it is a two-year term, and Ken, if you'll kind of give us a brief description, since you're our current representative, as to what that entails.
Actually, I didn't have anything to do. Never had a matter brought up to me. And
Okay. Basically, WIA representative, if there's anything, it refers to sports, basically, stuff that happens in the sports world. If we need intervention from a board member, they are our representative at a meeting, perhaps, and things of that nature. I know I did it my first or second year on the board, and I know it entails you're in a email chain that keeps you informed of stuff going on with the WIA, and it is a two-year term.
What does WIAA stand for?
Washington Interscholastic
Athletics.
Association.
Thank you.
So I will entertain a motion for our WIA rep.
Just a clarifying question, can that be someone that has already been, can someone do double duty with that?
Yes, they may.
Okay. I would like to nominate Lindsay.
We have a nomination of Lindsay Prowse as our WIAA representative.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second from Director Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor of Lindsay Prowse being our WIAA representative for a two-year term? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Well, congratulations to our newly elected officers. God, I need to quit being so emotional when it comes to these things. I want to thank you, Board, for your trust in the nomination and vote of me as president. I once again give you all the commitment of doing this to the best of my abilities, acting with honesty and integrity, transparency to our community, and always seeking the utmost goal that, our kids are the ones that benefit from the decisions that we make. I was at a meeting this morning where it said that if we don't act with integrity, we don't act. So I would ask us all that we adopt that perhaps as a motto as we go forward, and that all our decision-making is public, it's transparent, and that we keep the end result in mind at all times. Thank you once again for your trust in myself. I don't take it lightly. I realize that I have some big shoes to fill. Director Simmons did an excellent job as a president. And I just, again, I give you all my word that I will do it to the best of my abilities. Thank you very much.
I have a question about a student rep mentor. Is that an appointed position, or is that also an elected position?
I think we appointed that. I tried looking through the DP, or the district operating, I couldn't find a specific one
Okay.
to that. And I'm of the opinion that you're doing a great job, Director Stevens. And Stevenson, excuse me. And we will have a discussion at a later time as to
Okay.
what we will do with that position.
Great.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Okay, moving on. We have a special recognition tonight. I'll ask the entire board if we can come up front over here for this. Very good. Earlier this week, myself and Director Stevenson had an opportunity to go to the high school and be part of a celebration at OHS. The reason for the meeting with the staff that morning was to recognize them on an achievement that came across to Dr. Hurst from the Director of Education, the Superintendent of Education, Chris Breitdahl. And it goes without saying that it is a very merited award that we are recognizing OHS tonight for. It had to do with four-year graduation rate. And I will read the certificate. We had some speeches at that meeting. And I will read it. Well, Jen, you're always telling us that we got to get it closer. It says, Certificate of Excellence, Othello High School is hereby granted an achievement award in recognition of attaining a significant increased four-year graduation rate from 79% to 87% in 2019, and having displayed qualities of dedication and continuous improvement given at Othello School District this 9th day of December 2019. So I will ask our principal and assistant principals from OHS to step forward this evening. And if we could please give them a round of applause, because they are here tonight. They are here tonight representing the entire school, and Principal Vergara that morning acknowledged very eloquently his entire staff, and it is something that was merited. These three gentlemen are at the helm at the high school, and I'm sure that in large part due to their efforts of being persistent, developing the plan, sticking to it, that these things are accomplished. So we as a school district, as a school board, want to thank you and just recognize you with this certificate and continue the great work that you folks are doing.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And thanks to the staff, too. It was a team effort. It wasn't one individual alone. It was a whole team effort. I have a whole supporting cast behind us, behind me. So I thank everybody, and we'll continue the work one student at a time at Othello High School. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now photo.
Very good. Thank you. Superintendent, I don't know if you have anything to add since you took the message from the Superintendent of Education. I'm sorry.
I think just one of the things that's worth noting that I shared with the high school at that time is that across the state, we remain stagnant. And when you listen to Superintendent Rector's message, it says that the state is at 80.6% graduation rate. So it is pretty significant, and it is a big deal to see the significant jump from last year to this year, just looking at Othello High School. But one of the things I shared with the high school as well, if you look over a 5-year period, that trend, they really went from 70% graduation rate to an 87% graduation rate. So that's a 17 percentage point jump. So it is a big deal. We wanted to celebrate and honor not just the leadership, but the entire team at Othello High School. Well done.
Very good. Thank you for that, Chris. Moving on, B5, we have board member discussions, and Director Stevenson, is there a legislative report tonight?
There is. So shorter compared to my past one. All right. So last legislative report, I shared what WASDA's legislative priorities are statewide. WASDA is the Washington State School Directors Association. Last time I shared what the student safety and support was, and this time I wanted to share what the staffing needs were. All of the school directors have decided that this is a priority for legislative issues statewide. There's 4 different points. Reduce local district fiscal impacts related to school employee health care benefits. SEB is what they were referring to. Update the prototypical school model to reflect school and student needs. Increase efforts to attract, recruit, train, and retain high-quality, diverse staff. And lastly, support the development of a state salary schedule. So those are some interesting things, changes from changes that have recently happened, but just some different interesting things that's WASDA's stance for legislative changes.
Very good. Thank you for that. Next on the agenda is the NSBA conference, the National School Board Association Conference. It is scheduled for April 4th through the 6th of 2020 in Chicago, Illinois. And I've been to a couple of these. It is a great conference with a myriad of topics that pertain to nationwide issues. It's a great experience for a new board member perhaps, or even an existing board member to go freshen up, to go get different perspectives, stuff that's going on at a national level that can enhance our district. So if you're planning on attending, if you haven't already, if you would please let Talia know. That way she can make arrangements as far as registration and flights, lodging, and all the stuff that comes with it.
I know it's like right at the beginning of spring break, isn't it? It's
It
the
is,
weekend right before
Yes,
spring break
the weekend
starts.
before spring breaks.
I'm,
yeah.
I'm personally planning on attending. I'm
Okay.
not sure if anybody else is, but
Very good. I mean, if you're thinking about it, I mean, we can cancel at a later time, but there is an advantage to registering earlier, financially or price-wise.
So I know that they go Western, Eastern. Is Chicago their version of Western?
I'm not sure.
Do we know the following year where that's at? I guess is what I should be asking.
I haven't researched that yet. I haven't looked.
Okay.
I know it was in Philadelphia last year,
So
so
then,
it's a little
right.
closer to.
even though
not
to us
much.
truly in the West, Chicago is not West, but
That could
yeah.
be their alternating
Yeah.
city.
Mhm.
I think it was just the following year, I believe it's in the south. I'm not
Oh,
for sure, but
okay.
it could be in
Texas, I guess, maybe.
either Texas or New Orleans.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Either way, it's a great conference, and like I said, if there's any interest in any board member, let's let Talia know so she can make the arrangements. The next bullet point under board member discussion is something I think that I mentioned at our visit to the elementary this week. I would like for us to schedule a meeting to discuss facility planning. To Director Prowse and Director Schutte. This is an opportunity for the 5 of us to get together, get our minds together on a plan. As you all are, you're aware of the myriad of meetings we've had. Sharon, you were part of the, is that okay if I call you,
Facilities Committee?
if I call you Sharon? Is it okay? Because I kind of get the director portion. You were part of the Facilities Planning Committee, so what I want to do is get us together and elaborate a plan, what's next. Get your perspectives on where we're at, where you think we should be. Combine it with some of the stuff that's gone on. We might read minutes from the last meeting we had and some of the ideas that were tossed around, but as a new group, get together and put our minds and focus on what's next. Where do we go? How do we prioritize? How do we enhance perhaps the plan that is already in place if there's stuff that we need to amend, tweak, or do differently? So having said that, I know.
I want to actually propose that, number one, that meeting, that workshop is, that we YouTube that, so that is open.
Okay.
And full transparency. I know that typically we do not YouTube our workshops, but I think that one would be essential to do that. I think that I would also like to propose that we do site visits to not just campuses in terms of facility needs, but district-wide, food services, transportation, all of those kinds of things, so that we all together, and so these would all have to be open meetings, we could all together get a background and an understanding about those kinds of things. I know that I personally have done some of those myself personally, but I think that as a group, we need to propose that. And then we're gonna also have to do, I feel like we will also have to do an executive session in that to talk about costs of facilities that are possible to purchase, ones that we had been talking about in the past, new ones that might have come up, since those are protected by executive sessions, so that we can have all those numbers out there for all 5 of us and know where we're at, so that when we have that workshop, we're all on the same page. So we all have the same understandings, I guess is what I should say.
So are you requesting an executive session before this facilities meeting that we're trying to set up here, or after that one?
I think before would be helpful, even if it's right before we go into workshop, or in part of the, we have an executive session and then we go to all these facilities and have those tours. Not in the purpose of like talking to staff and talking to, and seeing what the academic, and not meeting the ends, but in terms of purely facility needs and those kinds of things. So executive session before we have the workshop, at least.
So it would be on potential purchase of property, because we
Yes.
gotta fall under certain
Yes,
situations.
yes, so that we know, I know that the district has found or have, that they have found out some costs of some facilities that are possible purchases, so that we can, when we go into the workshop, we have all that background information instead of, well, could we do that? Is that even an option? Is that a possibility? How much would that be? Because all of those numbers tie in.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you have some information that Sharon and I don't have, right? So if we could be brought up to speed, that would be super nice before we do, so we can make an educated decision.
Can we do an executive session before an open meeting?
Yes.
We have
Yes.
before.
Yeah,
Yes.
I want to make sure
So-
we're abiding by the OPMA.
I believe it would be good to bring up the current board members on
Sure.
previous properties that we have discussed, that we haven't
Talk
ruled
into
out
your
100%,
microphone,
but at least get their opinion on them. And
Ken,
I
you need your
appreciate
clip on. Sorry. There we go.
Okay, having said that, I know we have our last regularly scheduled board meeting, Board of Directors meeting at noon on the 18th of December. I'm open to hear possible,
I
Times
think
and
we need
dates for this
to
meeting.
get on this like as soon as possible.
So are you wanting to
Is
meet
there any
before?
preference? Yeah, before the
I'm fine with
18th.
that.
Could we do a Saturday? Go through the facilities on a Saturday? Is that a possibility on the 14th?
I will not be here.
Okay.
And
What-
the only, like this week, the 11th doesn't work for me, Wednesday, the 11th, but
Okay, what about Thursday?
How
You're
long?
gone
How?
Thursday
Okay.
This week,
through the 13th.
yeah,
Okay.
this week won't work out any date this week for me.
What about the 17th, Tuesday?
Jen, are you saying you want to do an executive session, a site visit before our board meeting Wednesday?
Yes.
Okay.
So does Tuesday, the 17th
So-
work?
Depends on what time. I can.
Evening.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
the 17th doesn't work for me.
Okay.
And as we're scheduling this, I'd also like to make sure that it fits in your schedule. Jeanette, seeing what your availability is, don't
I
know
have
if,
my calendar up.
okay.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
just
let's-
waiting until everyone.
No,
Until
very
we
good.
pick
Very
one,
good.
right.
We
Yeah,
want to make
when
sure
they
that,
get
Okay.
done, there's a couple requests that I would like to have just numbers ready for that.
Okay, yeah, once we
Also
get
too.
the date set, then, yeah, if you guys have things that you want prepared.
Okay, what about during the day on Monday? Does Monday during the day work for people? Yes,
On
the
the
16th.
I can make myself
Yeah,
available.
I can make that work.
So are you saying you want to do site visits before Monday?
No,
No, on Monday.
site visits
On Monday,
with an executive session of like, for
30 minutes.
30 minutes probably, and whether that's before or after a specific time period so that we have that
Gotcha.
part planned. I mean, during the day, 3 PM, I'm open on Monday until we hit the evening.
Monday morning would be best for me, if we could pull that off before noon.
9 a.m.?
Yeah,
Okay, so just so I want to make sure, Jen, we'll have an executive session at 9 a.m., followed by site visit to potential properties.
no, not to the potential properties. I want to do site visits to current properties to know what the facility needs are.
Can you list out like specific, do you want to go see
I
all
want to
the
go
food
all
service
of our
kitchens?
elementary and middle school and high school campuses.
Okay,
And then we also need to hit transportation and know what the food service needs are, so that's at a bunch of different locations. So that, because I know the facilities committee actually did site visits and had a much better understanding of what the food service needs were, and if there's what the transportation issues are, what the issues are out at the track, maintenance issues, not issues, but needs, whether we hit the maintenance site or just talk about, had a list of those concerns and issues. I mean, we've heard a lot. I think you guys have been at a few of those meetings. I think we need it all together, so it's gonna be,
see
it's
what you
probably
heard.
like a 3-hour at least.
I was going to say, is it even
That's not
possible?
short.
Yeah,
That's,
so
you-
basically seeing what you guys have heard
Yes.
as concerns.
So you're
Yes.
saying we go to every one of the elementaries, both high schools, the middle school, the bus garage,
Yeah.
the maintenance shop?
Yep.
And who are we meeting with? I'm thinking schedule-wise as far as which group's going to be at each school, and
It could
the
be
coordination
Greg.
of that is
It
probably
could
going
be
to.
a principal. It could be teachers, like 600 wing, we've heard things, but to see it, like I actually went and did a walkthrough and just chatted with a bunch of different teachers and got their verbal perspective. I know it's going to be super short and concise to do all of those things, but to say, oh, sure, let's spend like $30 million here and let's spend $100 million there and those kinds of things. I need to see I think that together we need to see these things and go, oh, this could wait, this is a priority, so that we all come up Yep, I know I'm asking for a nightmare. Yep.
The
So-
logistics of that are what I'm trying
Yeah.
to figure this out.
Well,
And
I
don't
don't
know
think
if
that
it's
it
even
necessarily
possible.
has to be a site, like a principal. If a principal is available, then great. If it doesn't work out for when we need to be there, or a vice principal or something, then that's fine too. I understand that. I understand what I'm asking. I get that. I think that easily Greg, in theory, would be able to walk us through all of this as well.
I think what I'll interject this here. I think what would work best is if Greg would be the one that takes us on these tours or site visits or whatever we're going to designate these. Because, yeah, I realize you realize what your ask is.
Yes, I'm
and
asking for the whole
I wanna say
elephant
it's almost
all
like an
in one
impossibility.
plate. I get it. It could be, some of the sites could be photos and information. Maybe we don't have to go to each of the elementary campuses, or maybe we only go to one elementary campus. I think the high school is mandatory, and maybe checking out a new portable versus an older portable. I don't know. If we have to put money in all of these places, then at least some more information altogether. Basically, we've had this in like 3 different versions all together with a dollar amount attached. Or maybe like, here's the dream, here's the essentials.
So maybe at each site, maybe the administrators could have a list of needs at each one's or areas of concern. So that would be areas that we could address or take a look at really
Yeah.
quick. So
I think I have a good, I guess, general feeling of kind of what you guys are wanting. Just basically you want to see some of the things that you've heard about.
Right.
Like there's lack of food service warehouse space.
Yes.
You want to see it. You want to see what it looks like now. You want to see maybe some of the kitchens and the space constraints that they're dealing with as well. And then also like the track. You saw pictures of it. You want to physically have your feet on it kind of thing. So I think we can work something out. We'll try to work on schedules with the short notice, and then we'll have some district admin there as well to kind of talk through some of the things we've heard as well.
I'd like to get the new board members' perspective on that and what their idea of this would be.
For me, this is super important. I want to be brought up to speed, and when we answer to the community, so when the community's asking us, why aren't you doing something about food services? And I haven't seen it, that's irresponsible of me. So I appreciate what Jen is trying to make happen. I think it's important for Sharon and I to both be boots on the ground with the rest of the board.
Yes, where there's so many people asking you questions and you can't answer anything, so it's important to go to all of them.
Yeah.
It may be time consuming, but
We may have to plan lunch. I know that this is going to be like,
I heard Mike's
massive-
barbecuing. No?
Bring it on, I'm good. So
I-
just,
I guess just before we conclude, what would be helpful for us is like time. So is there a time that we need to be done based on your guys' schedules? Because that's going to determine how we set things up too.
I can commit to freeing up the entire morning. But I would have to
So
get
can
back
I.
to work after lunch.
I can too.
So at least a 3-hour visit,
So like a 9 to noon?
9 to noon, yes.
Okay.
with an executive session first to know about the properties that are available or have already been asked about, and because together the new 5, I think, have to rule out options before we decide, oh, that's not an option.
Okay.
So are we doing a meeting like 9 to 9:30 and then starting our site visits?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is
so
is
we'll
what
all
I
meet
was
here.
I would like to say. Yes, we'll all meet here and then do that first. So, Ken, I think you had some specifics you wanted to ask about.
I think there's already enough formed enough that day. There's quite a bit already. There is one thing, and I wasn't here last week to talk about it, but the WASDA conference There was one particular area when we get to go down and see the vendors. There is one that I would like you to research a little bit to have for this is for potential future facilities or temporary needs that we need. Alaska Structures. I could get you the email address, and they just have large portable facilities that the district could actually purchase, but they are also capable of tearing down and moving to another facility.
Okay.
So it would be something, as we work on each facility, we have temporary facilities for each one
Okay.
that we will actually own. It's not the same as a portable building. Once you get them set up, they're a lot more difficult. It's actually, so
Okay.
if some research, or Greg could do some research into that too, because it's something that we're going to have to look at as temporary facilities once we get to that point. And it'd
Yeah.
be nice to have what it's exactly going to cost us.
Yeah, if you could
But-
send me a picture or something of the contact information.
Yes,
Point of reference, I believe Findlay School District has one of these.
has one already.
Ken and I visited that booth at the same time at Osd, and they mentioned that Findlay had one installed that we could physically go take a look at and ask our questions about dimensions and everything else that comes with it, services that are provided or not.
Okay.
So I think that would be,
That won't
Good
fit
place
in
to
Monday's
start.
agenda.
no,
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 no.
it
If Greg could, if
No.
he wishes to research it on a physical basis, he could do that.
But for-
Okay.
And
yeah,
then maybe
for
also
future
at that meeting on the 16th, we could then plan when we're having the workshop to talk about the next steps.
Very good. I'd be okay with that.
Maybe between Christmas and New Year or something, so we could knowing what our schedules are.
All right, Chris, I know we've kind of got Jeanette in on this, or I don't know if you know what your schedule's like on the 16th, if you'll be available to, okay? So we will set an executive session, an executive session for December the 16th at 9 a.m. for approximately 30 minutes to discuss potential sites available for purchase to the district for different needs. At the same time, it'll serve as a financial state of the state about these facilities for the new board members. That will be followed by physical site visits to several schools. No specific, if we'll have time to go each one, but we'll try to get a plan together to where we can visit as many of them. So does that, am I getting
Maybe we
consensus
could ride a
here?
bus.
There's some other smaller vehicles, we don't need a whole bus.
Then the community, anyone else that wanted to attend, I didn't mean a big bus, I meant a short bus.
right.
Anyways,
So
just
we
an
will,
option.
we will set that for December 16th.
Perfect.
Discussion on November board linkage, Ken. I don't know if you and,
So, November board linkage, it was actually supposed to be myself and Director Simmons. I know I had a discussion with him early in November, and we had the ideal to visit the Ophelo Police Department and visit with staff, but because of everything that went on in November and WASDA and other situations, we never did get a chance to go visit them.
okay, perfect segue.
But I would like to keep the same site visit or linkage with the same group, but possibly with a new director for another time, and we could work it in a coming month.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, if you'd like to join me and do the December board linkage there,
Okay,
and maybe follow up on what you were intending to do.
that would be great. We could do that.
Would that work? Okay, you and I will get together and we'll set up a meeting with OPD for a board linkage
Who was the,
opportunity.
I'm sorry. Are you done? I didn't want to interrupt, I'm sorry. Who's the January one, just so that we know?
I don't know what you guys are talking about. Can you fill me in?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You?
Go ahead, Ken.
So, the board linkage is the board actually getting out and exposing ourselves to the public a little bit more.
Okay.
Maybe
We keep it to
exposing
two.
is not a good word.
Well,
I'm
that's true,
sorry.
but, what we're trying to do is keep it to 2 board members, going around to different organizations, letting them know what we are doing what we're trying to get done, taking back feedback and comment from them, then coming back and reporting back to the board.
So it's some community outreach.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
So if you go to under
GP 7.1,
7.1,
I have it up for January. It's Ken and I. We will need to modify most of the rest of the calendar year because we planned on 2 people every month and it would just rotate around. So that, and then there was a list that we had made or had been given at one point of possible groups to visit. And those were the suggestions. By no means were the ones that were, these are who you have to go visit. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and we will at a later time, once we update that, we'll put a plan together to where it includes all of us, and we'll match up once again to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to go around. And again, and it's all in the spirit of transparency.
Yeah.
Like you've mentioned tonight, you know, you're being asked questions that you have no idea what it's about or what have you. Yeah, we're going to get you guys to get your boots on real quick, and we're almost in the position where we have to, not that
Okay.
we want to, but
Yeah.
we got to get going on these things.
Yeah.
Anything else that we want to discuss before I move on? All right, thank you for that. Okay, moving on, our final student representative report from Representative Taylor Taff.
I mean, technically I still have the Wednesday one, but we're just gonna say hi and then leave. Okay, so I don't have a lot, honestly. Well, let me get in my notes. I didn't have a pen earlier. So I just want to say the student rep meeting that we did have it went really well. I felt like the students really connected and that it was interesting and it was easily comprehended. Does that make sense? How it felt like the point was getting across and they were understanding. So that's always a really big plus. There's a choir concert tonight, and best of luck to all of them. I know they're going to do awesome. There's a band concert last Thursday that was successful. There's a wrestling tournament on Saturday, as well as a first home basketball game. And that's all I really have for the high school. I just want to say, like, this is my last, like, real, true, like, full board meeting, and I was recognized last week, but I still want to say thank you to everybody who has been instrumental in my term, and thank you so much for you guys have all shaped me into the young woman that I am at the end of this year and a half. Thank you so much for helping me understand how people work, how the board works, how basically like small town politics work. So thank you so much for everyone. That's all I have.
Now, we would like to thank you as a board, Taylor, for a job well done.
Thank you.
Like we recognized you, like you said at the last meeting, but once again, thank you very much for your input, your feedback, your willingness to be the voice for the district. Best of luck to you in your future endeavors. I know on the 18th, it'll probably be a short meeting, and you may or may not be here, but thank you once again. I don't know if...
Thank you,
very much.
Taylor. It's been wonderful.
Oh, I forgot I actually have 2 more things. One, there was the real quick comment on Jen's student rep mentor, and I want to say that you're doing amazing, and I hope that you continue to be the student representative mentor through these next years. She's doing an amazing job.
Well, now
and
you've made it
she's-
so that I don't think anybody will ever figure
Perfect.
it out. Thanks, Taylor.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
Taylor.
It's all good.
But honestly, you've really helped with me and Isabella. We are able to come to you to help us kind of gather our thoughts and how to present that effectively on the board. So thank you. And also, real quick question for me and the students that have been interviewed: when will they know? Like the student representative, when will the public know when that has happened?
That is
Number 7,
a great
right there.
segue into item B7.
Perfect.
You'll know here in a little bit. So we added B7 to tonight's agenda, basically the appointment of student representatives. I would like to first of all thank the 3 applicants that we interviewed this evening. It was great. It was great to see their interest, their willingness to come sit in front of a very hard, stern panel of Ken and myself And we conducted these interviews, and we have come up with a recommendation of appointment of a couple student reps, so I will.
Want to hand me those slips right there? Okay, I would like to recommend, is that Lauren?
Lauren?
Maples and Elsa Garza as Elise. Garza. Somebody else made that mistake, huh?
I did.
As the new student representatives for the Othello School Board.
Okay, we've heard a recommendation from Director Johnson that we appoint Lauren Maples and Elise Garza. I also called her Elsie mistakenly. We conducted these interviews, and we think that they would be great additions to this board. So if I can get a consensus on that, we'll make it official.
Could you talk to us about terms? Because we made it so that they would alternate,
What we,
but we weren't
this
able
is
to.
a discussion we're going to have, but what I think we should do is Lauren is a junior, and my intent is to see if she's willing to ask her for the entire year, which would be January to December, and ask Elsie if she's willing to do an
Elise.
18.
Elise.
Elise, Elsie, I am so sorry if you're listening.
Or mom.
Sorry, Jen. If she would be willing to do an 18-month term, a year and a half, and that would put us back on schedule where they would have a 6-month overlap. That's the
Great.
intent of that.
Oh,
Elsie, now we've kind of asked you, so.
Elise. Elise.
Oh, my goodness. Elise, I am so sorry.
I could
So-
blame mine
Yeah,
on you.
yeah, well,
Would
I heard
you-
you, Ken.
Would you like them to attend the next board meeting, the Wednesday?
We
one?
will, when we notify them, we'll notify them, and yes, they will.
Okay, sounds good.
We will have them here at the next meeting. So do I get a consensus from everyone? Are we?
Yes.
The appointment is good?
Do-
Okay, so we hereby appoint Lauren Maples and Elise Garza to be the next student representatives to the Othello School Board of Directors. Thank you for that. Okay, moving on to item C1. I will entertain a motion to approve the required approvals.
I have a question before we go to that point. There's a proposal for a brailleist. I had a few questions, a new position. A few specific questions on this. Do we currently have someone that fulfills this capacity but is not being paid, or that's not their current title?
We have a current paraeducator who performs the duties as a brailleist, but that's not what her job title is. She's been a paraprofessional.
Okay.
So she meets all the requirements of a brailleist, and so we feel that we do need to pay her as a brailleist. She meets the requirements, she has certification, and she currently works with 9 of our visually impaired students.
And currently, is she, does a brailleist position full-time, part-time needs, or what are the needs currently with those 9 students?
The need is full-time.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right. That was my only specific question there.
And the purpose of this, just adding it to the PSC contract language.
Correct. Yep.
Great. I move that we approve the required approvals.
There's been a motion by Director Stevenson to approve the required approvals,
I second.
second by Director Prowse. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. The new directors, I don't know if it's coming up on your screen, we have an opportunity to actually vote on your computers. You should get a little window.
I haven't gotten any of that this entire meeting.
I haven't.
We just barely got on.
Yeah, I barely logged in. It wasn't
I
working.
believe they're just logged in to.
Okay. In the future, you will
but
see
not
a,
logged under the executive.
you'll see a little pop-up
Yeah, I
window
think
that
you're
gives
right,
us an
Ken.
opportunity to vote electronically.
Okay.
And I know that the internet is hit and miss at times here, so thank you for that. C2, I will entertain an approval for the early accounts payable warrants.
I move that we approve accounts payable, but I do have questions. You want me to go first before we, okay.
Sure.
So on accounts payable, Ednetics, we have a $73,000. And I know that Ednetics does a lot of things for us. In this case, once at these dollar amounts, can you give us the big chunks?
Yes. One of the big chunks is internet filtering. So we are going through Ignetics now for internet filtering. It's a new contract. We're not renewing our old contract. We've been having some internet fun battles, and so we are choosing to go through Ignetics for a new internet filtering company to hopefully help us have some more less downtime, I guess. And then also there was configuring for some new switches and hardware and all that techie stuff that I don't know anything about, but there was some new configuring for switches and things I think related to security camera software.
Okay.
And cloud-based.
Great. And then ESD 105, we have a $55,000.
Yes, there was a couple things. So student and fiscal software support, which is our standard monthly support for our student, fiscal, and HR softwares, Skyward. And then also we had some summer enrollment trainings that they came and provided us some support for, which was great. And then also RAWI, which I believe is student discipline. Oh, student attendance.
Okay, so those are just some of the annual contracts you're hitting now, or payment.
Yes. Yeah,
I
the
guess,
student
invoices for past things over the summer as well.
Yeah, so RAWI, that's a one-time year-long contract, and then the student and fiscal software support is a bill monthly.
Okay, right. And then Norco for $29,000.
Yes, so Norco is for a plasma cutter, which is a cutter for sheets of metal. And that is for our ag department, our CTE ag department.
Okay,
for
gotcha.
Metal shop.
Perfect. Thank you. So I've already
any
moved to
further
approve
questions?
it. That's my questions answered.
If you'd motion, please.
I will move that we approve the December accounts payable.
Very good. We have a motion by Director Stevenson to approve accounts payable,
I second.
second by Director Prowse.
I will have to abstain from this portion due to amounts owed to Johnson's Glass some more.
Very good. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0 with an abstention. Moving on, C3, Resolution 19-008, Educational Programs and Operations Levy. I believe there's some questions.
I think we just need to talk about where we're at with which one we all think that we need to do so that we can come to a consensus. I personally don't have questions. I know, like we should write this down, right?
No, we had this, it was in board docs at the prior meeting, and I did make a request of the new board members, since it was a public document, to study it. I also, if they had any questions, gave them an opportunity to ask. But yes, this is an important decision that I think merits a discussion amongst ourselves. And if we can, there is a need to, if we approve one of the options that is presented, do it tonight so it can be on the February ballot for approval.
I did as you asked, Mike. I went through, I looked over the numbers. Option 3 is what made the most sense to me, which is $1.90 per thousand. So that's kind of where I'm at. I understand our district needs some money in a bad way. asking for more than that at this point is something I would like to save for a bond or a capital levy. So I'm comfortable at 190, and I think our community can step up in that capacity.
Okay, so basically, we're going to set a resolution tonight, which will go to the public, which I think has to be on by December 13th, which would come up for election in February, correct? On this. So ultimately, the public gets the final say-so on it. And if the public did not approve this, would it fall back to the $1.50 automatically, which the state has set as a level?
No. So if the voters do not approve it in February, we could either have a fallback plan and be prepared for April election, or we could run in August, or we could run in November. Ultimately, if we do not pass by the end of 2020, we will not have tax collections at all in 2021, except for our debt service for bond repayment.
And not only do we lose what we were supposed to collect, but we also lose
LEA, which
LEA,
is state match.
which is, do you have a number on that?
It's
What
about
that could be?
2.5 times what we collect in local funds.
Okay.
Is that available for every, like if they didn't pass, is there only a certain time element? Like,
Yeah,
Like
so it's
February or April?
basically, our current voted levy expires in the calendar year 2020 for collections. And so if we don't pass something for collections in 2021, then we don't get them. And that's the state law.
I'm
So-
kind of, oh, sorry.
So I think you said pass in 2021. I think you mean pass in 2020 to start collecting for
Yes.
2021.
Yes,
Just a clarification,
Sorry.
sorry.
My only concern was because people have voiced about the taxes and everyone's house values, which you brought up the last meeting, have been they've been revalued, and so I don't know, that's already a tax hike right there. I understand the $1.90 is much higher revenue, but I don't know what we need to discuss is.
I guess kind of just each of us need to say where we're at, and then we can go, okay, well, there's 3 here, there's 2 here, there's 1 there, there's, so.
Here's how I got there. So if my house is worth $300,000, let's just ballpark it, and I'm paying $1.50, and I go up to $1.90, that's 40 cents times 300, right? So it'd cost me 120 extra dollars a year. Divided by 12, it'd be $10 more a month for me to put in just on that one property. So that for me was something I could wrap my mind around. What do I spend $10 on? Drive through at McDonald's, drive through at Burger King, all sorts of stuff where I'm wasting $10, right? So for me, I'm like, okay, for $10 more, I can throw that towards the school's operating budget, and then I'm gonna have to show up in a much bigger way when we go for a bond, but at least for $10 more a month, that's where I came up with that, from 150 to 190.
So Sharon, is there a specific number that you were most comfortable with?
This is 153. I was just voicing because people have stopped me in the streets and said, no more taxes. I don't think they understand the M&O, that this is, you have to have this to run the school district. But a lot of people are wanting to know where the funds are, how we distribute them, that they're not wasted funds, that we're using them for specific ideas that are on, and that is what we have to write up, right?
Yes, so your concern is that there's no new taxes, just the replacement, is that what you're
Well,
saying?
I mean, there is gonna be new ones with the new values. And there have been several people that are unlimited incomes that have said it to me. There have been others, but a lot of those are elderly people. And so,
I'm
If
just
you're-
gonna put out there, there's a senior tax exemption.
for what age group is that?
I don't know off the top of my head,
Okay.
but
I mean, I could take that back to them.
Yeah, that would be good information to know.
I just want to read straight off of the resolution. The EP&O levy would be used to support many programs for the district, including but not limited to athletics, nursing, custodial, maintenance, technology, security, certified staff contract costs, curriculum, early learning programs, community education, and staff personal development. Professional development. This option would also allow the district to address facility needs such as HVAC updates, carpet replacement, parking lot repairs, roof repairs, track repairs, and security measures for campuses. So either one of these three options have that same verbiage in the resolution.
So,
I'm sorry, the 150 does not have that second paragraph. It does not include the facilities needs. The 150 is just the
First portion.
the support programs.
Very good. Thank you for the clarification, Jen.
Upon review, the senior age is 61 for the tax exemption.
And do they have to apply for that, or is that something that's automatically there? How,
I believe you have to submit something to the county assessor's office.
like
probably.
proving that you're 61? I
Something
guess,
like
something like that.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
so some of the things I asked about earlier was some cost to some of these things that we need to look at currently or really soon. Some of them, one of them was the track repair at the high school. Have we had any numbers come in back on that yet?
Just estimations at this point. We don't have formal quotes, but around $500,000, give or take. And that's for the full, as we were talking at that facilities meeting, we were saying it's not just necessarily resurfacing and redoing the track surface. It's also getting the
Redesigning the layout.
yeah, redesigning the layout, adjusting, making sure we're up to code on everything.
Okay. Another one, and I know Greg's been busy and got some numbers, and that's to do with safety, and that was rekeying of the locks throughout the district. Do you know if he has come back with that number yet?
So he's reached out to vendors and he's just waiting on some responses from them. And so we're just waiting on that piece. I do know we've been working hard on getting the existing security systems up and running. And so we're making some good progress on that. We're still working through that process, but we're
Okay.
making headway.
And some of those issues were listed in option 3. But as Sharon too, I also do have a concern with the new assessments that the county has come out with on properties too. And some of them were quite extravagant. I know they backed off a little bit from their first ones. It does make a difference. And I know in the future we're going to need to go out and eventually ask the public for a bond or a capital levy. And we're going to need their support. And somewhere we're going to need to make a good gesture to the public too, to get their support.
So what's your number,
So-
Ken?
You know, I've been leaning back and forth between the 190 and 150, but I know there are some needs that we need to address right away. One of those is school safety. And if I know that if I could go to the 190 and I know those needs could be addressed in those particular areas, I would have no problem asking the public for the 190. But I would like it to see go in Pacific areas. And that's the hard part. Because once you ask for it and it's voted on, sometimes you have no control.
Is the parking lot only the bus garage, or are there other parking lots that need repair?
The main parking lot at this point is the bus garage. but I'm sure there are small repairs that need to be done at some
And-
other parking
That
lots. I
one's
mean,
quite
The-
spendy.
That was, I believe, to do it right was 2.1 million.
But with only a
How-
this
one-year-
wouldn't be
Is
that.
that only a
That
one-year
one.
warranty, though?
Yeah.
Sharon's asking, I don't know if she can hear you.
Oh,
'Cause you're
was that only a one-year warranty still on that 2 million?
On the full
On the
parking
bus
lot
garage?
repair? Yeah, I'm not sure if there was a warranty tied to that.
How crucial is our parking lot situation? Is it like, oh, it gathers some water? Or is it like, we're about to lose a bus into a sinkhole?
I drove that
Serious.
parking lot the other day, and I was really surprised how much it has.
It's crazy.
It's not inches, it's, in one area, I think it's feet.
Wow.
It'll be on the tour.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
there's
yeah,
spider
I
webs.
would love to
there's-
see that.
There's a lot of, I went out and saw that. It's,
I only
dangerous.
ask because it's
not,
like,
not losing a bus into
right.
a sinkhole, but
are we
it's,
talking sinkhole or are we worried about like someone breaking their leg at a track meet? I mean, just trying to weigh out where we're at with what's most important.
they actually offered that I could get in a bus and go for a ride, and I was like, no, we don't want to, we don't want to go there.
I bet
So,
that's pretty bad.
they are, where from what I saw, the biggest problem is where the gas tank is at.
Okay.
It's a huge weight, and it's got a lot of water retainage problems.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
so-
I'd like to see that.
What I'm gathering from our discussion tonight is that there's a couple options that we can consider tonight. So if we're ready, I will entertain a motion to adopt one of the options. It'll be voted on. If there isn't sufficient votes, we will reopen it for a different motion and see if we can come to consensus to get this to a February ballot.
I motion to put forward option 3.
Okay, we have a motion from Director Prowse that we adopt option 3 on resolution 19-008. Is there a second? Okay, not hearing one. Motion dies for lack of a second.
I move that we adopt $1.50, which would be option number, I'm sorry, it's $1.50 range, in the $1.50 range, option number 1.
Okay, there is a motion to adopt option 1 on resolution 19-008. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Okay, there's been a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of adopting option 1, that would be collection in the 150 range per 1,000 of taxable assessed values. All in favor, aye.
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 I would vote opposed. So motion carries 4-1. Thank you very much. Great discussion. And we will proceed with that resolution. Jeanette? Moving on, C4, superintendent items. There is none there. Does anybody have a burning question to ask the superintendent? In fairness to our new board members, this is where we'll have some items that will come from the superintendent for our perusal. If we have any questions, they can come at this time. There is nothing there tonight. Moving on to C5, I want to thank Hiawatha's leadership for their patience with us tonight, but we do have a pre-approved presentation to the Board of Directors from Hiawatha. We visited the elementary school here this last week, and they have their chance to come and wow us with all the great things going on at Hiawatha.
We might have to get a different mic for them.
Well, we'd first like to thank the board for their visit last week. It was great to have you in our building. We heard great things. The staff enjoyed having you there. They always appreciate the transparency and your willingness to kind of come in and be a part of our building and learn what we're doing. And it's always really well appreciated, and the staff enjoyed seeing you. We're grateful for your willingness to walk with us and just see it all and give us feedback. So we welcome you anytime. If any of you, I know Ken comes sometimes and visits family members and has lunch, and so we'd welcome you into our building at any time. So we're grateful for that. Our presentation is similar, but we've expounded some on the presentation we gave you at that meeting as well. So I'd introduce myself, Will Von Brack, the principal, Jesse King, our assistant principal, and Melissa Rocha, our instructional coach, are all going to take some turns in presenting some information. We've added some data in there as well, so you can see what we're achieving and what we're doing there. So without further ado.
So I'm briefly going to speak to you about what our three main initiatives so far this year around student growth and academic competencies. There's three main things that we've been working on in our building, and those are setting up a structured math intervention program, changing and adapting our reading intervention model to meet the needs of our students, and teacher clarity in core. And so just to briefly explain a little bit about that, as far as math intervention, this is where we're really trying to target students and start to fill some gaps. If they have some gaps in their learning from previous years, we're able to assess our students and look at where some of those gaps are and to provide some more systematic instruction to help fill those gaps, which will help lead for them to be able to better access their core instruction during their, when I say core, I'm referring to our math block when they're getting their regular math instruction or reading instruction. The second piece is reading intervention, and in just a minute, as we move to the next slide in a second, I'll go in a little bit more in depth with that, with some data and some information. But based on what we've been seeing in our student data, we've adjusted and adapted our reading intervention time this year, and specifically in K through 3, have extended a little bit of that reading block time. So we're not only able to address some of our students' decoding needs and decoding deficits, but then also building in some opportunities to address and intervene around vocabulary and language development, as well as comprehension. And then the final initiative that we've been working on in our building is around teacher clarity and core. And just to reiterate, core is when students are receiving their regular grade level instruction in reading and in math. And what teacher clarity is in this area is that we're trying to provide students with clarity around the lesson and what the expectation is for them to be successful. And we call this success criteria. And success criteria really, it's just not for the teacher. It's just as important for a student to understand what their success criteria is so they can judge their own journey along the way of mastering that. So just a brief example of that, like in a kindergarten classroom, if they are working on writing to a specific topic, success criteria that a teacher might have posted using visuals and pictures would be like, I know I've met this if I can draw a picture and it has details that match my idea. Does my sentence begin with a capital letter? Are there spaces between my words? Is there ending punctuation? Have I labeled my pictures with the sounds I hear in words? So it's for students to really go back in and start really judging where they are at and to see what they are being successful at and what they need to improve on. So if we move to the next piece. One of the celebrations that really kind of relates to our change in an adoption of our reading intervention blocks is some celebrations that we have around our decoding intervention program, which is RGR, which stands for Really Great Reading. We have had across our system over the last couple years, we've seen an increase in the number of students who are classified as strong decoders. What this means is a student who is a strong decoder can look at an unknown word and has the skills and ability to break down and be able to read that word fluently and accurately without having to laboring through the text. And so right now, so in our system, in our second grade class, we have 31 students who at this point of the year are classified as strong decoders. And in the past in our system, we're probably up about 10 students this year, and we're starting to see this gain with students. And a really big celebration is right now in our 6th grade classroom, we have 71 out of 98 students who are classified as strong decoders. So what that has created for us is now there's one piece of reading comprehension that we can kind of check off. Our students have those skills, so now we can place more focus and emphasis or intervention around vocabulary development and comprehension to really help them become an overall reader. 2 or 3 years ago, that was flipped. Or as far as when we're looking at 6th grade, now we have 3 classrooms who are not needing decoding intervention, whereas when we first started our decoding intervention program a few years ago, it was 1 classroom did not need decoding intervention and the other 3 did. So this is something that it's been exciting to us to see this growth.
Question, so when
Yes.
you say the decoders, you mean for that grade level, for
Mhm.
reading at that?
Yes, on grade
in-
level,
okay,
on
on
their
grade level.
on their grade level
Okay.
standards and text. Yes. And then if we can go to the next piece, another celebration is we're looking at student growth. Currently, right now, based on the STAR assessment that students have taken. So for all students that have taken the STAR assessment in both September and then the same students that have taken it again in October, the percentage of students currently meeting their expected growth. So STAR will calculate, okay, throughout the year, if you start at this level, your expected growth rate is, this growth goal is this. So right now, in math, we have 69.6% of our students on track to meet that growth goal at the end of the year. And in ELA, it's 66.9%, which both of those are exceeding the goal that was set for growth on that in the district, on the district report card.
So those don't necessarily mean that they're at grade level, but they're moving forward and making
Their growth,
reasonable
yes.
growth,
Yep.
whether
they
two-
start
two-
2 years behind, but they've made,
right.
they should
A
be
big
making
jump.
this much growth in this year. Yes.
So that they're, by the end of the year, they're at grade level or just making appropriate
They're
amount of growth?
making their expected growth for that year, the appropriate amount of growth. And so what you do find is students who are further back, their growth is expected in order to help them to catch up, to make
So more growth for those that are behind is what you're saying?
to
Okay,
get caught up. Yeah.
great, thanks.
So yeah, we're really excited for the growth that we're seeing. We're excited for the growth we've seen over the several years, as well as just this year with some of the things that we're implementing. And as we're designing instruction, it's exciting because it's providing us with new challenges and new opportunities and new things that we're seeing. Our whole redesign of our ELA intervention, our reading intervention, was based not on problems, well, they were new problems that we were seeing because these students are becoming better decoders. We needed to increase that time so we could make sure we put in comprehension blocks and word work blocks, that they were able to develop vocabulary and not just be decoding, because decoding was our focus for so long. We're seeing more and more students successful at that, and we're able to move on into new areas. So that's really exciting for us, and it was awesome to celebrate the high school today and see that work that they're doing and the growth that they're making there. And we like to take that same work and make it part of our work and advancing students, as it talks about here in ENDS 2, and making sure that we're feeding the junior high, and then the junior high can feed the high school, those students that are prepared to be successful and continue to graduate. So that's been our focus. That's been kind of the lens that we've worked through at Hiawatha this year, is exactly like Jen was asking about, making that growth so that those students are making steady progress toward grade level, so that they're prepared as they move forward. So to do that, we've had that graduating cohort focus, and I'm going to show you a little bit more some of those years and how we've always looked ahead at our kindergartners and said, all right, you're the class of 2032, right? How are we going to pass you? Because Alejandro will still be around then. He'll be a little grayer, but he'll be here, and we'll pass him the class of 2032 in a few years, and we'll have that graduation rate up even higher. So focusing on incremental growth, how can we make that growth so that those kids are ready and have realistic growth on that? So we set individual goals on that. And again, to reiterate, our PBL, we think, is a big part of that in developing those soft skills and those other skills. So I want to show you this next slide, which just gives, I'm not going to go into all these numbers. Talia, if you can jump down to the next one. We don't need to jump into all the numbers, but this is how we've been looking at it in a cohort view. So if you just look at math for the 4th grade, right, when you see that 28.7%, that is the achievement rate of last year's 3rd graders. So they're now 4th graders. The 4th grade class sat down and looked at all of their students, their proficiency ratings, a series of data of how those kids have grown over the years, and they made individual goals for every single one of those kids. And that gave us an output of a goal of 51.1% of students passing the math SBA in 4th grade this year. Now, 3rd grade also set goals. They don't have the luxury of being able to look at historical data because those students did not take the S for the previous years, but they were able to look at things like NELA, the reading. They were able to look at STAR math and things like that and try to extrapolate from there. But this is really exciting for us to not have kind of pie in the sky goals, not have goals that feel arbitrary, or that they're able to but they're able to latch onto them and say, I know where I want my individual students to land, and how that works. You may notice that some of the goals, you may look at that and be like, well, why did some grades set much higher goals or much lower goals? I think something that we've really talked about a lot in our staff is that passing level is not the only way. A student that wasn't passing and now is passing isn't the only way we say that students made growth. So some of these grade levels, if you looked at the details that the teachers had, they might have had, right, like 5th grade, 54.8% of their students passing the year before. But if you look at some of the kids that weren't passing, they're significantly more behind, right? So a lot of those kids, they looked at them and they weren't all yellows, you got a lot more reds. So they do have goals for those kids to move levels. They just might not move to the level where they're passing. So they have significant goals, and we went over all those goals with the grade teams, and they all made strong commitments to growing all of those students. But sometimes we have to make that goal with the long view in mind. Let's make a realistic goal, move those students so that the next year 6th grade can take them and move them next. And next 6th grade might get the glory of seeing more kids move across, but we got to move those kids. And that's exciting, and this has been exciting for us. It's been an energizing lens for our teachers to look through and see. Going to the next slide, just a little data point on PBL. Our students we have 62% of our students that will engage in PBL units this year. So more staff have been trained and are committing to give PBL units. I believe our district goal was 50% this year from 25% last year. So we're slightly ahead of that, and we're excited for those units. We've got 3rd graders that are going to be making animal bridges for roly-polies. We've already had some 2nd graders it was really entertaining to watch Orland come into the 2nd grade classroom and talk to them about problems they were seeing on the playground and their proposals to fix erosion problems that they were noticing out there. And they had researched various different types of ways to fix erosion problems. And we talk about alternative energy in 4th grade. And we had some great presentations already in 6th grade on technologies from the past and how they relate to technologies of our day. So we're really excited to see what's happening there and really seeing those students thrive and develop and be ready for those next steps in their educational career, because they're confident, they know how to make connections, they know how to attack real world problems. And so we're excited for what we're pushing through the system and the preparation we're doing there. We're committed to that in the long term. So we have our SEL and PBIS, some data as well in there.
So I'm going to talk about N3, personal responsibility and citizenship. One thing that we're really seeing is we have students coming into the schools with lots of different types of backgrounds, coming from trauma, coming from troubled homes that really need support. And if not that, just kids just dealing with life, and it can be difficult for them. So the state has come up with 6 social and emotional learning standards. And social and emotional learning is the process through which students and adults understand and manage emotions. So looking at those 6 standards, the first one is self-awareness. The second one is self-management. The third one is self-efficacy, so believing that you can persevere and achieve. And kids need those 3 in order to move to those second 3 standards, which are social awareness, social management, and social engagement. So what we're doing is working with students with a couple different programs to help build those social and emotional learning skills. The first one is toddlers to teens, and I showed you guys this one you here last. But it's really working on helping students understand how they're feeling, looking at their behaviors when they're feeling that, validating those feelings, and then choosing different behaviors that are more positive that will help them problem solve in the future. So we have our little feeling cards that every para and every teacher has, and we have posters in our rooms. And then we have also our little flip books that a student can point to that feeling card and say, I'm mad, I'm really, really mad. And then that teacher or that para can find that word and that feeling in the book and help that student identify what it is, what the definition of that feeling is, and then how do we act on that? What are some behaviors that we can do to persevere and problem solve and work through those feelings in a positive manner? The second program that we're implementing this year is called Second Step, and we're piloting it. And it is a program that gives teachers more support in the classroom to help implement lessons. It has like one main lesson for the week and then smaller lessons throughout the week that really work at a student's level of development. So there's games, there's music, there's activities, puppetry, things like that to help students better understand how to problem solve and deal with all the different emotions and things that they encounter throughout the year. Then we're getting more and more involved in PBIS. This is our third year of PBIS in the school, or is it fourth year? And what PBIS is a positive behavioral intervention and support system. So it's looking at the whole school and saying, what can we do to promote positive behaviors in the school? How can we support students in that? And so we have our SOAR, our safe, on task, always respectful and responsible. So students know in our school, this is our school-wide expectation. This is what we expect all students to be. And in order to support that, we have our SOAR tickets. So students can earn those SOAR tickets throughout the day, throughout the year, and then they're collected at the end of every week and names are drawn. And so they can come get a little prize, they get to talk to us, they get to hear their name over the announcements, telling them all the good things that they have done, how they've been respectful, how they've been responsible and on task. We also have our monthly awards assemblies that this ties into our monthly character traits. So I'll do the last two together. So each month we introduce a new monthly character trait such as gratitude or what's ours this month? Empathy. And so teachers look for students showing those traits, and then they're awarded at the end of the month at our awards assembly, and Dr. Hurst joined us at our last one. It also, teachers choose a student who's showing academic growth as well. And so those are a great way to really honor those students. And so just overall, we really know that students need support and caring and kindness to help problem solve and choose positive behaviors and that will help them in life, because we know that students need to be supported socially and emotionally in order to be academically successful as well.
So if you want to scroll to the next slide, we've got some.
So we know that all of our students are receiving that SEL support. That's been implemented in every classroom in our school. We look at, so I use a program through PBIS called SWIS, and it tracks all of our referrals, our suspensions, our discipline. And so we looked at the total of suspensions for last year, and there was 42 suspensions. And then we looked to date this year, and we're at 11. So if we look for the rest of the year, we're on track to have 25 suspensions. So that's down quite a large amount from last year. Also, looking at the data, I could see that in October, we had 107 referrals, which was higher than we wanted and was higher than that same time the previous year. So, which was about 4.65 per day. And so we chose at that time to do a professional development based on the data, based on who those specific students were, where the behaviors were taking place, who was working with those students at that time, and to do a training on how to work with students, how to approach students, how to help them problem solve, a lot of those social and emotional pieces. And in November, we brought our referrals down from 107 down to 45, which was 2.65 per day. So we saw just by providing that piece of professional development around the data, we could really see improvement with the students.
So we're excited for all that's happening at Hiawatha. We're excited to see the data and the movement, and we anticipate continued growth. We anticipate continued challenges, and we know we'll hit bumps in the road, but we're excited for the team that's been formed at Hiawatha and our commitment to be there for the long haul and really take on those problems and difficulties as they come on. And we're excited for the administrative team and the support team and really the staff as a whole. They're committed, they're excited, they're motivated, they're problem solvers. They're vocal as you met them, and they let us know, and that's been a blessing. You know, we have an honest staff that really supports us and seeks to problem solve together with us. So we're grateful for that. Are there any questions from the board or comments as we wrap up?
I think Hiawatha has always had that sense of family community within the staff, and they're, I mean, you might have a few come and go and those kinds of things, but it's always been, you have a lot of super long timers on your campus that will be there until they die, or that have come to die on your campus. I mean, professionally, not literally. And so I think that has always been an amazing thing to see at your campus, that no matter what changes take place in the district and administration or any of those kinds of things, there's still a serious family there, and I love that. So
I'd have to agree with Jen. And, you know, when you have that kind of camaraderie built up, it reflects back down to the kids a lot. And the kids know too, and it does make a big difference.
I thought it was a wonderful visitation, and I think I was very impressed that your teachers, your students, your parents spoke up. That was, yeah, that's really important, so it was really good. And you gave a nice presentation.
Yeah. I am a Hiawatha Thunderbird for life. I thought it was great. I was a little late, and apologize for that, but walking around, one thing I noticed that I haven't noticed at other site visits, and I haven't done a ton because I'm new, but was that every door we went to was locked. And so it seemed like a very secure campus, even though, I mean, some of your doors I know open to the outside and stuff like that, but I was just really impressed by that. Melissa did a great job showing me around, and I was really impressed, so great job.
As a former student, I've always noticed that last year when I went to the site visit, I was unable to make this site visit, but last year when I went, my kindergarten teacher recognized me. And I've changed a lot. And so to see that, like, somebody that, I'm a senior, I'm graduating this year, and somebody that has been really instrumental in my life from the very beginning was able to notice me. I don't know, it's all, like, I've always been very thankful for my elementary school, and I brag about it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But, so thank you so much. You guys are doing awesome.
Well, we're grateful. We're always grateful for the support of the board. We're grateful for the support of the district office, and it's been possible to step into this role as a new principal and new assistant principal, and be successful and have a great year so far because of the vision and the course that's been set, and that we didn't walk in, you know, with a blank page, but we really had a vision and a course that we were able to adopt and move forward and add what Hiawatha needs specifically, because we think that's really important. But we're not blank slating and as we walk in. So it's been great, and we're grateful for your support. And we continue to invite you in, and anytime you have any questions or concerns or thoughts, or community members come, we encourage you to come to us and help us address those. So.
Very good. I just want to reiterate all the kudos that were given to y'all. It was a great visit, very insightful, and I'd be remiss if I don't mention the cohesiveness that I, for one, experienced or felt. Nobody's shy. That was perfectly clear, which is a great thing. I mean, the diversity of opinions is always a good thing, because then you come together as a group to come with the best resolution to the issues. I'd like to commend you guys on your presentation your candor where you show some deficiencies and some areas that need improvement, and your willingness to put those out there and acknowledge that they're there, and let us know that you're working towards those things. At the end of the day, that's all we can do. And I appreciate that you and the new leadership was able to continue the good things that were going on there, and I foresee nothing but great things. I believe your assistant said she was going to be there for a long time, and you guys are just going to continue doing these things. So kudos to your entire staff. Please pass along, I believe, from the entire board of directors that we appreciated the visit, appreciated their feedback, and look forward to the great things that will continue happening at Hiawatha. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very good. Moving on, our times are thwarted a little bit, but that's okay. Item D1, assurance of organizational performance. We have a monitoring report for EL2, emergency succession. I will entertain a motion to accept the monitoring report.
I move that we accept EL2, the monitoring report.
We have a motion from Director Stevenson to accept the monitoring report for EL2.
I will second that.
Second by Director Johnson.
I have a couple of comments.
I was going to say discussion.
Right? Shocking.
Any discussion?
So what I wanted to say was under the succession section, thank you for all of the amazing work that you've done here in this report, and that you have not just trained your staff to be able to step into your shoes, but also to be able to understand policy governance, because without that key piece of understanding how our board works, nobody can step into your shoes and be effective, and how and why, and that somebody else can write these reports. It doesn't just have to be you, and that they all understand the significance of the reports. And so I think that is, I love that that's what that you hit on that was amazing, to truly understand what we feel like is the work of the board. And then under the community of leadership, the chart. I've had so many staff members say, you've got all these awesome directors now, but who's under what, and where do they fit in? What's the succession? Or not the succession, but where do they fit? Who's their boss if I'm having a problem or something? And so this is awesome to see. And I haven't noticed, after looking at this, I started realizing I haven't been asked that question recently. I got that quite a bit at the beginning when I first got on. I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I just think it's awesome that they're doing some other things, but that this is very well defined, and I think that it's transferring to the rest of the staff as well. And then I had asked this question before, the disasters and under disasters and emergency section. Let's see, that's number 4. You talked about having an SEL training, let's see, an SEL forum. Can you give us a little, maybe it wasn't number 4. Maybe it's under number 3. Anyways, you talked about an SEL forum. It is under 3. Can you talk about when that was and the different purposes, and who was the big picture of who were involved in those different ones?
Absolutely. So the first one happened in February of 2019, this year, but last school year. That's when we invited Ann Corin down, and we made a statement across the whole district. So all district employees were invited.
So including like maintenance and bus
Everyone.
drivers and everybody?
All classified,
Okay.
or certificated.
Great.
Everyone was there. They got to hear from Ann Corin, and then they heard from me as well, talking about SEL and the new standards from Washington State around SEL. Then recently in November, we had a second round where Ann Corin came down again, and we're doing a trainer of trainer models, train the trainer model. So from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Pete, I think we had 2 teachers from each school site, a counselor from each school site, and I think the instructional coach from each school site, and they were all participating in that training. I think it was a 2-day training. I think elementary was the first day, and then the secondary was the second day. But they all got the training from Ancorin. Now, those individuals are now tasked with the responsibility of going back to their teams and training them on SEL.
Great.
So that just recently happened.
There was a conversation that I had at WASDA with another board member, and I actually was able to say, we have SEL in every single one of our campuses, every single one of our students receive it, and they were just shocked. It was amazing to be able to go, oh yeah, we're there. We're where we need to be, and there were so many others that were so many other districts that were not where they needed to be, not where, that they were just behind the ball. And I appreciate that you can see the stuff coming down the pipe and are on top of it before it's official and mandatory, and the whole child is your focus. And I that's amazing to know.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I'd just like to commend you on the inclusion of your new directors. You've expanded your plan to include more relevant people, and I appreciated that out of your report. So we have a motion to accept the monitoring report for EL2. All those in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Can I just mention really quick, since we have 2 board members, that reviewing of this policy will be given to you by SurveyMonkey, probably by next tomorrow. I know it's my first time doing these. I was very intimidated by it. If you have any problems, questions, you could probably reach out to one of the board members to help you through that process, or call Thalia and help you through the process of the policy. But
It'll be on this one, right?
yeah,
It comes by email, and so, yeah, you can just respond to it that way.
'Kay.
And then there is like a timeline that, with our next meeting being on a Wednesday and not on the typical 4th, what is our due date for that? Typically, it's the Wednesday before the board meeting before, but since it's a Wednesday, and so
we are short.
that's just good to
shorter time.
have that information. I've started trying to take it as soon as I get it, instead of going, oh shoot, she's sending me a text reminder.
So we're hoping to have the agenda live to the board by Friday in the evening. That way you have all weekend, and then on Monday we would want to make it live to the public, or on Tuesday, right before the board meeting. Dr. Hurst and I were speaking. We will go ahead and schedule a meeting with Sharon and Lindsay individually, so that way we could just go over all of the details, the monitoring response documents, all of the process. We have 3 steps that we take. We first have the monitoring reports, then we do the SurveyMonkey, and then the monitoring response documents. So there is a little bit of explanation that I could go ahead and just give you a little bit more of that information.
Okay.
But definitely I'll go ahead and reach out to both of you. But as far as the SurveyMonkeys, if you could have them in by Friday, that would be great. That's why I will be sending them out tomorrow.
When they tell you that they're available, they are. And this is a lot. I realize that you're like, oh my God, but no. Once you get into the cycle of things, it'll be a lot easier. But once again, I do appreciate their openness.
And this time there's only one, but when there's multiple reports, you have to like scroll down on the email and then go into each different one. Because there's been plenty of times that I've missed one, or anyways, so.
Okay.
Awesome, very good. Moving on, item D2. We have monitor and response documents for EL10, EL13, and GP11. Basically, these response documents are, we've already done. We got the report. We did the SurveyMonkey. We were able to look at the comments from the SurveyMonkey. This is for Director Schutte and then Prowse's info. Based on those, we decide if there's multiple comments, if they're like the same thing meaning something different, or we decide, let's keep every comment in there, or no, it's just, I just wanted to point it out, it gets eliminated. So these 3 documents are basically what we concluded. And I will entertain a motion to approve the monitoring response documents.
I'll make the motion that we approve D21, D2-2, and D2-3 monitoring and response documents.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Johnson to approve item D2-1, D2-2, D2-3, which consists of the monitoring response documents for EL10, EL13, and GP11.
Second.
All right, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
And I would just like to make a comment. Also at the Osd conference, I believe you and I both got to attend a session by Issaquah School District, which was policy governance 10 years later. And they had some great things they were working on policy governance, but they shortened their meetings up. And this was one of the items that they added to their consent agenda. So I would like to take a look at that in the future, to add that to the consent agenda to help shorten up some of the time we spent on policy governance and do more work of the board.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, the time we just spent on these response documents is something that's already been discussed. It's just a matter of the document itself. So seeing as how we've agreed on this, it would just be put into the consent agenda and save us the time that we just spent on doing these things. I mean, there's nothing to vote upon as far as what's in it or not. It was discussed at the last meeting for approval. This is just the actual physical document that could easily be put into the consent agenda and thus eliminate the time and hopefully shorten our meetings. Very good, Ken. Appreciate that. Okay, moving on. Item E1, review, discussion, revision of current board policies. There's several items there. I would like to begin with EL5, budget planning. This is a policy that we've kind of been looking at for a while based on some verbiage that's there. There is some proposed verbiage there. Director Johnson, I believe you had some input here. So if this meets our criteria or if this suffices your questions, I will entertain a motion to approve.
I will make the motion to accept EL5 as currently wrote.
There's a motion by Director Johnson to accept EL5 as currently written with the revision.
Second.
Second by Director Stevenson. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. EL10, District Instructional Vision Academic Program Standards and Practices. I don't see that there was any.
So these are just because we reviewed these and just had the monitoring response documents. Because there's no proposed changes, we don't have to do anything here, right? We don't have to approve them or anything. We're just.
No.
Yeah.
It's for informational purposes. Thank you very much. And I just hit a button I shouldn't have. Come on. I apologize, I hit the wrong button here. Moving on. There is no need for an executive session tonight. Item G, upcoming events. There's basically a calendar of events that are upcoming with the addition that Director Stevenson made at the beginning of the meeting with the Family STEAM Night for DOHS. Is there anything else on here that we may have missed?
I just want to put here, I know the school district has been very supportive of the community Christmas baskets in the past. And one of the things that they have taken on is a tournament. It first started out as a basketball tournament, and now it's volleyball tournament because it's less aggressive and we have less injuries coming at the end of the night.
Okay.
But that is actually slated for tomorrow night, I believe, at the high school, starting at 6 o'clock, and it is a great opportunity to come out. It's some nice friendly competition between all the schools, and I hear a few of the schools even have multiple teams this year. So it would be great for some of the support.
And the
from moms.
community is encouraged to bring
A canned item,
canned
for
item.
food too, for that.
Very good. Anything else we think we need to add there? Very good, thank you. G2, for Director Prouse and Schutte, every meeting, we are committed to basically evaluate ourselves. We conduct this board self-assessment of the meeting. If you will click on the link, there's some questions there, and you both have been at our meetings and kind of have a general idea of how this works, so if we can just fill out the survey.
Is it right on this one? No, it's not even on there.
It's,
Oh, it's down there. Oh, okay. I thought we were still
And then you
there.
have to click that blue.
Thank you.
Oh,
It's blocked.
her Survey Monkey is blocked. Are you able to get in, Lindsay?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
That's a good one. Okay. 'Cause you don't have to do it. I think we just, I did one, I didn't want to. Okay. Because yours is different than mine, isn't it? Okay. This is our number.
Okay, I believe all our answers are in. All right. The agenda was well planned to focus on the real work of the board.
You might have to make it larger for Garza eyes.
No, I'm good. 5 answered commendable, 1 said good. See, but then she's got to slide it this way. The board followed its agenda and did not allow itself to get sidetracked. 4 said good, 2 said commendable. The board's deliberations and decision-making processes were public. 5 said commendable, 1 said good. All board members participated in discussion. No one dominated. 3 said good, 3 said commendable. Members listened attentively, avoiding side conversations. 5 said commendable, 1 said good. Governance policies. Board actions occurred at the policy level rather than the operational level. 6 said yes. The board agenda referenced policy about each topic that was discussed. 6 said yes. The board chair helped the board efficiently conduct its meeting. 6 said yes. The board supported the superintendent in any reasonable interpretation of its policies. 6 said yes. In writing or modifying policies, the board started with a broad statement and became more detailed in a logical and disciplined sequence. This one gets us every time. I don't know that we wrote any new policies tonight. 2 said yes, 3 said not applicable.
We did modify a policy.
We modified, yeah.
EL5.
We approved to modify the budget.
The verbiage in EL5. I stand corrected because I was a non-applicable. The board asked the superintendent to provide reasonable interpretation of its policy. 1 said yes, 1 said no, and 4 said not applicable.
I believe we did not ask the superintendent after we approved it.
Not at this meeting.
Not at this meeting.
Because it
And
was
so
there
we
already.
had done it in the past, and so I put not applicable because we had done it in the past and
already
we
asked
knew
him.
what his.
It was in his
interpreta-
report.
But, yeah, so
Okay. Overall, we have a 4.5 for this meeting. And we've got a couple comments. Great meeting with comments and discussion from new and existing board members. I totally agree. And I would like to thank you all for your vote of confidence, and you have my commitment to continued improvement at these meetings. I thank you once again for that. All business is concluded. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
So do we sign out?
Jeanette, I have some questions. Can you